Wow. You were kind of alluding to this earlier, Charisma, about how people, ask you guys or want to know, have questions and want to talk to you guys about different things. Can you tell us a little bit about some of like the worst questions and the best questions you've had? Give us a little bit about a little bit of both worlds and how you guys sort of responded to those.
Yeah, so one of the better questions, more popular questions that we get, that we love answering is regarding Cole's disability and why is he considered a paraplegic and not a paraplegic? Because, so a lot of people just don't understand the difference between quadriplegia and paraplegia. So we love to explain that. And
because I can move my arms.
Yeah, so because Cole can move his arms, people are really confused because when we see on social media and media in general, when we see quads, we always think of Christopher Reeve and how he didn't move anything. And so we love answering that question. And just any questions regarding like Cole's disability, we just like to try to educate people. Mm-hmm. When it comes to the worst questions, a lot of those questions are regarding race and why we're together and if Cole would be with me if he weren't disabled and like why I wanted a white man so badly that I dated or married someone with a disability and those kind of questions, which are terrible questions, and all of them are very ableist and very racist. And people try to hide their racism by throwing Cole's disability into the mix, and it's just those questions are really tough, and sometimes we answer them, sometimes we just ignore it because it's just ignorance and there's no point in addressing it sometimes. But yeah, those are the tougher questions. Do you have anything?
Actually, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah,
I don't get why people think ableism is like an appropriate coverage for their racist questions, but they do for whatever reason, and we see that all the time.
Yeah, wow. Along those lines, you mentioned ableism and obviously accessibility issues come in all formats. We know there's the physical one, but then there's also the social one. And can you tell us about a time that sticks out to you the most and how you dealt with that challenge and how you worked through it?
Ooh. Well, do you want a physical example or a social example?
Oh, anyone is fine.
Well, I will say one of the times where I felt most discriminated against, and I really don't get like riled up about stuff. Like I understand that this world isn't necessarily built for accessibility. That's not making excuses for anybody, but like I'm just being realistic. But the one time I really felt discriminated against was when I was taking an SD card, which we used to film and capture all of our footage, to a store to salvage some of the footage because the card became corrupted. And when I got to this establishment, there was a curb at the door. And it's very cold outside. I'm all wrapped up in jacket, and I already have a very difficult time with the cold just because of my injury. I can't regulate my body temperature very well. So I'm sitting out in the cold, and I'm waving through the window, and I'm like, hey, I'd like to come in. Is there another entrance I can use? And they're like, oh, sorry, this is the only entrance. I was like, okay, all right, no problem. Do you have a ramp that you could put down? Which a lot of people do. They said, no, I'm sorry. And they just looked at me. I was like, well, can you come out and help me then? Like, what's going on here? Like, help me out. So that began this process of them like coming out, getting the card, going in, getting the papers, coming back out, handing me the papers, going back in with my card, running that, coming back out. And the whole time I'm sitting out in the cold, and like I felt like a second-class citizen. I just wasn't even allowed in the door. And people are looking at this going on, and then I felt like I was being stared at. And, what I really took issue with was at the end, I said, hey, like, I don't want to be that guy, but it would have been great if y'all just had a little temporary ramp that you could pop down so I could roll right in. And then they got super defensive. They're like, oh, well, we tried to do that in the past, but we got citations for it from the municipality because this is a historic district and we're not allowed to change the storefront at all. And I was just like, really? Like, are you serious? But I was already in the cold for 30 minutes. I wasn't gonna sit there and argue with this guy when obviously he wasn't gonna hear me. So I just left. And fortunately, there was nothing really that changed in that situation, you know? And even more unfortunately, I'm not sure anything would change with an establishment like that unless there's litigation involved. And I don't want to go down that road. Someone will, maybe one day, but I'm not going to be that guy. So that's one instance where I was a little peeved at that one. Mm-hmm. And I don't get really riled up like that.
Mm-hmm. Another thing we deal with physically is whenever we fly, airlines aren't the best with wheelchairs. And right now there's a big movement right now and a lot of fight against Delta, who damaged 2 wheelchairs in the past week. And it's all over social media. And we just flew the day before that happened, and Cole's wheelchair, someone was slamming it through the door, trying to make it fit when it wasn't going to fit. And his wheels are $15,000 just by itself, not including the chair. And so I run off the plane and I'm dealing with this situation, and they just weren't listening. And that's just something we deal with all the time. And because of that, Cole had to sit on the plane for an extra 20 minutes before he could even get off, because they just wouldn't bring the chair up the right way and wouldn't listen. So, we deal with a lot of, those situations, those physical barriers a lot. More on the social barriers. Do you have an example for that?
I would say socially, the biggest issue I have is when people just make assumptions. Mm-hmm. And that assumption could be something like he can't speak for himself. So when we go to Chipotle and we're going through the line and I'm beside Charisma, they'll look at Charisma when it's my turn to order and they'll say, what would he like? I'm like, I would like a burrito bowl. Why are you ignoring me? That's one thing that bothers me. Another assumption is when people just assume I need things that I may not need, and then that just makes me feel like super disabled that, you're coming, running to bring me these things. Like, for example, we were in a restaurant, and we all got a glass of water as soon as we sat down, and they brought it out, and there were 3 of us. They put a glass of water in front of her, put a glass of water in front of Charisma, and then put down a plastic sippy cup in front of me.
Wow.
I was like, I look at that and my jaw dropped. I was like, really? Mm-hmm. And I had not asked for that. I didn't say anything. They just assumed that, I don't know, maybe I would spill it or maybe it'd be easier for me. But whatever that assumption was, it made me feel not good. So I mean, we had a laugh about it, but I was like, this is not a good laugh, more like an appalled laugh.
Yeah. I cannot believe this happened.
I know.
Yeah. So there are a lot of situations where someone will come, a situation where we both face, where someone will come and they see I'm helping Cole or pushing Cole or trying to navigate a situation, and they jump in and literally I've been pushed out of the way so they could help. And I'm just like, whoa, First of all, no matter who it is, you always ask someone if they want help. You don't just jump in and help them. And then especially with someone with a disability, everyone's different. So if you try to assist and you don't know how, you could easily make things worse. And so we deal with a lot of those situations. Once again, just people assuming someone needs help without asking first.
How did you meet?
Yeah. So we met in 2017. I was working as a rehab tech at Sheltering Arms, and Cole was going to the outpatient clinic. We always make sure to let people know he was never my patient or anything. We worked on different sides. But
no laws were broken.
No, but we saw each other a lot. And I noticed him, and I forced my way into the area he was in and asked the therapist there if they needed help so I could talk to Cole. And he was on an electrical stimulation bike, which is this bike that basically you have pads set up to your legs, and it sends
electrical signals.
Yeah, electrical signals into his legs so he can pedal bike. And so they wanted me to get him off, and he had pads on his butt and his legs. So I was going in his pants and getting these pads off, and Cole hates the story. He tries to avoid telling the story, but it's how we met, and we actually started a conversation in that moment. And I didn't think anything of it because it's something I do all the time, and I was just nervous because I was talking to a cute guy, and he was nervous because I was in his pants. So
like that. It's raunchy.
You're welcome for the question, yes.
I hate the story because I had already taken an interest in her, and here she comes over, and like, you know, I'm planning out my good, strong, charming first impression, and here she is at the end of my workout when I'm exhausted. I might be smelly, I don't know, my hair's probably disheveled, and she's reaching into my pants. I'm like, oh, this is not how I want to go. Gosh. But fortunately, it wasn't too off-putting.
No.
And we after like not oh my gosh, not long after that, we went to a gala.
A gala.
Oh, I just mixed gala and ball. A gala hosted by the hospital, and I saw her wearing this beautiful green dress.
Yes, green.
Yes. It was green?
Yes, it was green.
No, I thought it was. Anyway, we always just disagree on the color.
Yeah.
But and she was looking so cute, and we chatted, and then that night when we had gotten home and it was kind of late, I noticed that she had followed me on Instagram. Ooh, maybe there's something there. So I followed her back, and I went back and liked some pictures, you know, calculated a few of them, you know, and then she liked a bunch of my pictures. Oh. And so I slid into the DMs. I was like, all right, this might be something. And I got the number, and then
the rest is history.
I asked her to come over to a bonfire I had planned with friends. And then she said yes, but I had not planned a bonfire with friends. So then I had to go down my so guys, I need help. Please, I need to impress this girl. I need her to know I have friends.
Yeah. No, it was a very millennial way of like actually talking and meeting each other, but we knew of each other before sliding into each other's DMs.
You mentioned something about marriage equality. Could you talk about that a little bit? Because I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, we've been talking about this a lot on social media, and so many people are, unaware. Because we talk about marriage equality all the time when it comes to same-sex marriage and interracial marriage, but we don't ever talk about disabled marriage. And for a lot of people with disabilities, if they marry someone, they will lose all of their Medicaid, because it is expected that their spouse provide for them. And so in our situation, Cole gets Botox multiple times a year, which is about how much?
We've been billed $25,000. We've been billed $50,000.
And not Botox for his face; it's for his bladder to help him hold.
Although
fluid.
my face.
And so, how much was that again? You said
25 to 50,000. It's all over the place. And
Yeah.
I cannot tell you why, because it's an outpatient procedure, and I'm in and out of the hospital in like 3 hours.
Yeah, but it costs a lot of money, and someone who is on Medicaid would, once they get married, they will lose that benefit, and they would have to pay out of pocket, or secondary insurance would have to pay, but it's considered a what's the word?
Elective surgery.
Elective surgery. So, or someone, they don't cover it. So it's benefits. What else is on?
Well, I mean, the benefits is the scope of it. I mean, but there's so many benefits that I would lose that, I mean, we'd be paying $200,000 to $400,000 a year out of pocket just for my care, and that's not possible. I can't do that. And it's really because for you to have these benefits and for the government to feel like you deserve these benefits, on paper you have to be super poor. So when you get married to someone and they're, someone's got to be making the bread for the family, all of a sudden you're sharing those assets, and no longer are you poor and destitute. So on paper, I'm poor and destitute. I got nothing. And that's how I have benefits. I know that there are supposed to be means by which you can earn money and retain your benefits, but the system has been built in such a convoluted, murky way that it's almost impossible for someone like me to figure all of that out. And there are so many specialists and care coordinators and care facilitators and so many people involved in just, trying to keep our hours. And I would never be able to figure the system out on my own. And it's almost easier. It behooves me to remain destitute.
Yeah. Well, and then also in order to figure out the system, you have to hire someone who knows about the system. So you have to have thousands and thousands of dollars to hire lawyers to help navigate the system for you and figure out how you can keep your benefits. And it's just so much.
It's a nightmare.
And so that's something that we've been trying to fight. In Maryland, they had a law passed, and Washington State, where you can marry and still keep your benefits. But it's just not everywhere. It's just only those 2 states. So
it's hard to get that passed in red states because they hear Medicaid expansion.
Yeah.
And that's it. They don't hear any more than that. So.
So Cole, when you were sharing before about noticing the ramp and people weren't assisting you, I was just curious, when you're someone that has the ability to just walk into a store and now you don't, what were some of the initial accessibility issues you noticed at that age of 16, 17, 18?
Yeah, one of the first things I noticed was how often I was looking for curb cutouts. And once I got onto or over the curb or onto the sidewalk, started noticing when trees were planted in the middle of the sidewalk with a big mulchy area around them so that the hard surface is only 2 feet wide, or fire hydrants in the middle, or when I would go to the grocery store and there's construction in the parking lot and all the construction equipment parks in the handicap spots or the accessible spots. Like why do they choose to park there? I could not tell you. And then just upkeep of sidewalks too. So a lot of sidewalks are super bumpy, cracked, to the point where I can't even get over them. So then I got to backtrack and go around the block.
Sometimes Cole has to roll in the street, which is super scary and it really stresses me out, but that's the only way like he can access an area sometimes.
Yeah, and then also when I'm in like retail shops, a lot of the times the counters are very high, so I can't see into them. Or when I'm buying product or trying to exchange my card, it's so high that like it's hard for me to get my hand up there without dropping everything. So I really appreciate it when I go somewhere and they have a lower counter, and that's great. Just take 15% of the end of your counter and just drop it down a couple feet and problem solved. Those are some of the things that really stuck out to me immediately.
With all that you guys experience together, what is it that gets you through it? What makes you resist?
Good question. I think for me personally, I think it's just like with YouTube, you have to be really resilient and you have to be able to take on a lot of scrutiny and comments, and a lot of them are positive, but obviously with that, like, it's human nature to take the negative comments more to heart. And for me, it's just knowing that we are helping so many others and helping change their perspective and hopefully making this world a little bit better by, putting our lives out there. And so for me personally, that's what helps me stay a little bit more resilient when facing backlash on social media. For you, it's different.
Yeah, when it comes to people's like negative opinions or comments, I don't care. I don't care. It means nothing to me. But I've had a long time to sort of deal with being stared at and being judged and, people having these opinions of me before even meeting me. So I don't really care about that. More for me, and it took me a while to get to this place, but it was more my desire to live life and not, let a couple issues or, bumps in the road prevent me from living life. For example, we tried to go to Busch Gardens, which is it's an amusement park, so it has roller coasters and stuff. And we were told that we'd be able to ride rides, and then we went to the ride, and they're like, no, you can't. And then we were like, but the people told us, and they're like, well, yeah, got to go talk to them again. So we talked to them again. They're like, yeah, you can ride it. And then we went back, and they're like, no, you can't ride it. And so we rolled around the park for half the day, and I wasn't able to ride a roller coaster. And I was so frustrated. But we just got back from Disney, and I rode every roller coaster that Disney had. Because I just want to live life, you know, and I went for so long letting those defeats defeat me, and I'm done with that. I just want to do my thing.
And we love like being able to go to a place like Disney World and show people like, hey, you can get on a roller coaster. And we've gotten so many comments from people who thought they could never ride a roller coaster anymore after the spinal cord injury. And Cole can do it, and there were so many people with less function than Cole too who have gotten on the same roller coaster, and that gave us more encouragement too to get on it.
Yeah.
But it's just amazing trying these new adventures together.
Yeah. Now I would say though, with Disney, I had to sort of. We were with a couple of men who were very strong, so they were able to transfer me on and off all these rides, which is a lot of effort. So, from my perspective, what I don't like is being a burden, and I'm really fortunate to have had someone or had a couple people like that and be willing and be so willing to do all those transfers for me, and my appreciation for them. That I have all the appreciation because I wouldn't have been able to experience all those things without help, and I realized that. And I'm grateful for it.
But they're amazing because they wanted Cole to have so much fun, and they were willing to do anything to make sure he had fun. And we both appreciate it because I couldn't do it by myself. So
yeah,
that's awesome. Do you guys know about us a little bit, our organization and what we do?
We'd love to
learn more. Yeah.
So our organization, we're considered an independent living center. We're one of 44 in New York State and one of over 400 in the nation. There probably is one by you guys in Richmond, Virginia. But we all operate independently, and we have different programs and services, but we all have the same mission, which is to help people to achieve independence or autonomy. Whether it's removing a barrier or providing the tools and the resources, we help make those connections and bridge that gap, in a sense. It's what we call bridging. And that's really our role. And so we love to see when people have achieved that level of independence. And that's why, I love bringing people like yourselves as guests to speak to our staff. It helps give us motivation and hopefully a desire to really help see people in our community live as independent as possible. So my very last question to you, I'm a little worried about the answer to this one, is because you're in Richmond, Virginia, what's your favorite sports team?
Oh, you're not going to expect this. We go first?
I don't really have one. So, well, if I had to choose anything, I guess, I don't have one. I don't really watch sports, no.
Oh, I do. And my favorite sports team is the Dallas Mavericks.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't expect that at all.
Yeah, we have family in Tyler, Texas, which is a few hours outside of Dallas. So I grew up visiting family there and going to the Mavs games. And Dirk Nowitzki is my favorite player of all time. Yeah. Dallas Mavericks.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. If I had to choose anything, it would be all New York teams because my family's from New York. So
there you go.
But I don't watch sports enough, so I feel like I can't be a true supporter. Sorry.
That's why I asked. Because in the beginning you said you were in New York, and so I was curious to see where that would go. So I didn't think Dallas at all, but hey, we'll work with that. Awesome. Well, do you guys have any questions for us at all, or?
Well, I would love to say I appreciate what you all do. We are familiar with independent living centers, and we know how much they benefit the communities that they're in, and so appreciate all of you for choosing this line of work, for caring about your work, and for bringing us in to meet you all fine folk, because we love this world and we love being engaged with this world.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate the time, and keep doing what you're doing out there. I'm following you. I'm sure you'll get more followers here. So, and hopefully we connect again soon.
That sounds great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.